I feel like all the group just.
Hey, come on. Hey,
Yay, thank you. And if you all would like to, oops. And then if you would all like to say your name and maybe what years you were active in basement, just to allow people to know who you are. I'm gonna start. Yeah.
Hey, there.
We're gonna do a photo awkwardly.
Is my fly open? Put the right stuff in there.
Is Victor coming down?
Victor, come down. Victor.
Victor, report to this floor. Okay, so I'm gonna let each person say their name and then what years they were active, just so you can know. Hopefully, everyone's taken the photos they would like to take.
Hi. Excuse me. My name is Liz Young. You know, this at the very beginning of things, there weren't all these walls and barriers. It was like there was so much nothing. Yeah, thank you. There was so much. There's so much nothing that we all got together and were involved, whether we were formally in the organization. So I never considered myself part of Basement Workshop, the organizing. But as Basement started doing things and as we started organizing in the community, I mean, everybody was involved with everything. And it was just very porous at that point. So this is almost academic. Well, were you part of Basement or not? Because no, but yes. We weren't I wasn't part of Basement, but I was part of the movement that was created here in the East Coast.
I'm Jeannie Chin, 1971. I was part of Yellow Pearl, and then we went on from there. And some of the latest things we did was trying to open Park Row and suing the police department after 9/11 to reclaim our streets and our neighborhood and our transportation network. And lately, I've been working on the jail, helping with the jail, but the other people are doing the big lifting.
Hi, I'm Jeff Lee. I'm from Chinatown and was with Basement, I think from, I don't know, maybe 71 to up to about 80. And it was amazing because Basement was one of the few arts organizations. I looked at it as an arts organization, but you couldn't help but be involved with the politics. With the arts, you had so many disciplines. You had photography, you had dance, you had the writers, you had acting, you had, am I missing anything? Dance classes, okay. Right, and so that was the beautiful part about it was that if you were there, you could participate in it in any of those other disciplines and get enlightened and be educated because you'd have all these other people from studying different arts, and it would rub off on you. And it was I'll always be changed by Basement Workshop because it was there.
Love you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay. My name is Arlen Wong, and I started in 1971 with Yellow Pearl. I would really like to congratulate Christina. It was a really great In terms of people who get involved now, I can tell you that for the past 15 years, almost every year, I get a call and someone wants to interview me. All kinds of schools, all kinds of students. Every year I'm very encouraged because I think I'm going to get something back and hear what they're doing. But I have heard from not one student after the interview. Not one. And I'm always wondering, why is that? Because I give all my information. They interview a lot of people, and they always promise. They say, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this thesis, and I'll get back to you." No one has ever gotten back to me. Christina is the one. So all my archives go to her.
I'm Lillian Ling. I also was part of Yellow Pearl in 1971. And I also got involved with many other organizations, like what Karen was saying earlier, because of my involvement with Basement Workshop. So I was involved with the Chinatown Health Clinic when they first started with the health fair, Asian Studies at CCNY, where I went to college. I volunteered and was active with Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund, and also with an uptown movement of Asian Americans, the United Asian Community Center. So it was a very important part of my life, and it shaped who I am today. Oh, and Project Reach, of course, Project Reach, Liz.
I'm J.W. Wong, and I started right at the end of the publication of Yellow Pearl. And one of the things that I just noticed on the screen was we discussed everything. We discussed women's rights, we discussed Asian American, and what do they call them, as Asian American or American Asians, or all these aberrations too. You know, so it could have been anything. I don't even know how it became Asian American. But I think one of the experiences that we really missed at that time is the experience of veterans coming back from Vietnam or from their experience in the military. I was one of those guys. So I learned a lot about what our buddies, the guys who were in the pit, in the foxholes with us, would have thought of us. I went to Korea, and I found out myself being different from a lot of the guys on base. And one of the other things is that, I forgot already. Alzheimer's, you can tell, I am a fossil. I am definitely a fossil. But the first thing that I read about the Asian American experience was reading a book while I was in the military about the Japanese American internment camps, concentration camps, and that really woke me up at that time. And it said to me, how do I go ahead and center my life around something different than just being an artist? I was a photographer, so I headed the film workshop at the time, and Henry and I shared a lot of visuals. But I was, but I'm glad he built it. I'm glad he built a dark room, because and I still have some old pictures that I gotta bring back, and I gotta show Christina eventually. Again, thank you, Christina, for doing this. I think I told you that before. And here's Henry. Oh yeah, I forgot. We did work with a lot of the gang members. The gang members. We don't talk about them too much. The boys, the hood. And we did bring one into. Well, Henry wasn't a gang member, was he? No, but we attracted some people who were very interested. And I don't remember why we never really got them together. Maybe it was just too dangerous at the time. You know, Ghost Shadows and all those guys. But one of our charges did end up being a heart surgeon. Yeah, let me tell you about it.
I'm Henry Chu. I came into Basement Workshop same time with John around 72, 73. Essentially, we were like just post Yellow Pearl, Okay, quite a few members up here were the original people with Yellow Pearl. As with most things politically back then, socially, etc., things get heated, things get hot, and they started to, argue, and separate. And when I first came up to basement, it's like, where did everybody go? And meanwhile, colleges are asking for copies of Yellow Pearl. So I was one of those people that had to bring it to the post office and send it out to them while these guys are gone. But anyway, I got involved with the Amerasia Creative Arts section of it. There was different components to it, photography, there was movie making with John. They did have a children's workshop, and various other things in there. Dance. Teddy was handling dance at that time.
So screening some of the posters.
Silk screening? Yeah, all involved. His buddy Carl was involved with the silk screen. So it was a pretty, at that time that I was involved with, was a pretty strong Amerasia Creative Arts component of it, okay? But going back politically, at that time, I keep analyzing to what was going on with the movement. Is particularly in New York. The West Coast, we found, and Pat and I found that you were dealing with second, third generation Asians there. New York was basically first generation. Okay, and our parents, they might have came in the 1930s, and there weren't that many of us here. If you really look back at the census back from 1950, 1940, even the 1960s, out of 8 million people in New York, we only comprised less than 0.3% of the population. That's not a whole lot, okay? If you look at the numbers now, it's close to 20%, is 13%, which is a lot more than 0.3. Okay, so there was a little discord as far as relationships with other Asians. I mean, I was brought up mainly in Flushing, and my brother and I were the only Chinese kids in that whole school. Okay, so if you look at it now, it's another Chinatown. So there's a big difference as far as the numbers. I don't know, maybe that made a difference as comparison to now, where after 1965, when immigration opened a little bit, it's a different Asian coming in as opposed to when we were around. I was just at Flushing Town Center last week to see a film, and it comprised of the senior citizen group creating films. And when they interviewed the other people, they said, yeah, when you came here, I found a job working at an insurance company. Or I found a job doing something else. I said, wait a minute, these are people that just came here and they're already getting certain jobs like that. The only jobs we had here was either the laundry or a restaurant. So, I don't know if there's a discord with the generation there, okay? And luckily, thank you, Christina, for trying to bring up this thing that we've experienced, but I don't know if the new Asians have experienced the same thing, okay, that we've experienced. So that's something to think about. Maybe that's why they don't see what we see, right? But that's just food for thought. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pat Chu. Everything he said. I came in about 1974. Was involved with the Amerasian Creative Arts and did, some of the silk screening of the posters and designing and T-shirts and things. And I guess we're, like with Lillian and Arlen, one of the romances that came out of basement.
That's one of the things Christine mentioned. It's like, hey, how many people out of that era got married? Let's do that.
Hi, I'm George Chu. I was involved in the Yellow Pearl in around 1970, 71. I was just a kid from Chinatown, and I heard from my friends that this was a good place to pick up chicks. Victor and Henry and Wing, but it never worked out. Unlike Arlen, you know. But I was involved in a lot of poetry. Now they call it spoken word. I performed. The Bok Choy Blues was one of my poems. And, but I kind of drifted away and went on to be an adult. But I am thankful for that period in my life, and it has made me who I am. I became a lawyer and a judge, an immigration judge, and that molded me in how I treated people and how I rendered justice.
Hi, I'm Teddy Yoshikami, and I just looked at this group and said, how come I'm the only Japanese here? but for some reason, I think I started with basement way back, I guess in this Yellow Pearl time. And but I had no skills in terms of art or poetry or literature or anything, but I came from a dance background, so I've been performing professionally as a dancer, so I wanted to start something at basement, so that's why Eleanor and I started dance classes, and I think a couple of my students are here. And so from there, I just kept building on that, and I know Eleanor eventually went off and started her own art center, so separated, but I kept teaching, and then I started to develop my own dance company there through Basement. And I guess I stuck with Basement pretty much till it closed, except a period where I was pregnant and had my daughter, so I wasn't around during that period, but pretty much so. And when she was born, I would drag her to all the classes and workshops. And I remember, I think I have a picture of her underneath the bars at 199 Lafayette Street, crawling around while I'm teaching dance. So.
She's here tonight.
What?
Your daughter's here tonight.
Yeah, I know. She's sitting right there. But. Yeah, she's all grown up now. She's actually still dancing. Yeah, I guess because my background is, I was born in Tule Lake in the concentration camp here in America. So I've always been dedicated to trying to help different groups and really put myself forward and trying to do that. And I'm still doing that, really. So, and then I grew up in Seabrook, New Jersey, which is in South Jersey, and it really was a Japanese village created after the war. And so I've always had this history of myself, and I have so many people constantly calling me about what was it like growing up in Seabrook, and then also when I went to New York, what did I do there? And it's been nonstop, really. In the last maybe 10 years, it's even mushroomed even more. And then I continue to go to the Tule Lake pilgrimage where I was born. So that's about every 2 years or so. I've missed a few of them, but I go back just to learn what happened in those camps as well, and how the older people really were. Most of them are gone now, but they really had a hard time in those camps. And so I'm always trying to do that. And then I also helped Cambodian Khmer Rouge survivors from the U.S., and so I was helping them going to the survival trials in Phnom Penh, and just working at the American Museum of Natural History. At one point, I was able to travel all over, so I met a lot of people from all over the world in terms of what they're struggling and what's happening to them, and see how I could, in my own little way, how I could help. I was a part of starting the United Asian American Community Center. So, because I felt when we were in Chinatown, it was, I said, well, we have other Asians that really needed to be represented, and I felt if we were in Chinatown, it really wouldn't work being an all Asian group in Chinatown. So we moved uptown more in the Flower District. 28th Street, yeah, I can't remember. I don't remember those details. But that was an exciting period too, because we really met, and that's when Nobuko and Charlie and Chris all came and started their singing. And so it was very exciting. Everybody would come out, and I think it was like once a month we'd all kind of get together, and it's like surprising how everyone showed up from everywhere, you know. So you got to meet and kind of just socialize. And then we also started an Asian women's group there as well. And so we would try to help different people and try to work with the media and try to publicize that, you know, they weren't speaking out about, you know, Asian Americans. And so anyways, as I said, I'm still continuing. And even today, I'm still writing about, if any of you remember Mamie Bersenberger, she was a poet at Basement Workshop. Well, now I'm being asked, can I talk about 3 pieces I choreographed with her? And this is 82, 83, and 85. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is that? I didn't even know, I couldn't even remember the dances I choreographed, but NYU has had records of it, so they sent the copy and I looked at it. And so it's been corresponding since I think the end of July till today that I've been working on that too. So it's something always keeps coming up one way or another. But I have to say Basement was very instrumental in my life, very much so. And as everyone else has said. Thank you.
I'm Nina Cole, and I was really privileged to work with Teddy and many of you because at 199 Lafayette they had a great program and they needed artists. So I was invited by this kind of like WPA CETA artist group. So I had to make thousands of photos, which many of them hand-colored, for this big show called Images of a Neglected Past, the History of Chinese in the Americas. And it was a mammoth job. And, you know, we worked night and day. Some of us actually slept overnight, ate the same food, and, you know, had a huge call for volunteers. And it was, you know, maybe, I guess, it showed us that we could really be present, and it was like a big national success, I think. And to this day, I think Orlin said it, why isn't the tradition of all of this energy and the presence of our heritage being more exposed? And it comes from the schools. The Chinatown schools or colleges, anyone that recognizes good art, good culture, good food culture, good music, everything, it comes from this rich soul. And that's what attracted me to stay and come back and have shows. I curated, worked with a lot of the poets, and Phil Nash gave me a book that we worked with. It was incredible, all the people that came, like black artists, Puerto Rican, everyone came, you know, because there was this huge, I guess, attraction of openness, you know, free. You could come in and say, I want to do a project, you know, I have the money, I'm going to do it myself. You know, it was very autonomous, and I think that's what Liz, I used to see her come from her job, and she would, all night she was working, and she'd come in and she would do writing. I mean, she doesn't get the credit she deserves, and Teddy and all of you. So I do have to say, like, there's so many people here that should be recognized, like Yoshio Kishi did scholarly work. I mean, if it wasn't for his incredible library, some of the organizations wouldn't be here. I have to, because I was there in the beginning, and I wish, you know, I wish that we had more volunteers maybe, or jobs for us. We all really need jobs. We need people in the arts councils and all the funding areas. That's how we got funded, because people there believe in us. I don't see a lot of the people there that are going to give us support, the monetary support or the real estate support. So we should be out there marching or doing something, you know. If the t-shirts and everything else don't work and the buttons, then we have to think of something. We're pretty clever, and you know, if we could do the basement and Christina could do all of this, then the message is for us to continue. And I don't know what else to say, except there's going to be a Godzilla show coming up. You know, all of us activists we did it on our own, you know, very little support from anybody else, and it's, I guess I need to come and see it. You know, we want everybody to come and join in that, that whole feeling of it. You don't have to be a basement person. You don't have to be a Godzilla person or any of this. You can just come and express yourself. So that's what I'd like to say, and just talk to us. And I did get interviewed many times this year too about basement. And in the past, Arlen, I did get a student. I'll give you the transcripts. Someone from Princeton. She did a whole research paper, and it never got published. But maybe that's our fault too. Yeah. Yeah. We'll get her back. All right, thanks everyone. And
Hi. When I was the first one up, I really was thinking, I never was part of basement officially, so I was thinking that, I'm an outsider. But actually, I wanted to respond to what John had said about the gangs, because I was the director of Project Reach, the first director, and we worked with some of the Ghost Shadows. And I remember we had 2 fundraisers at Basement for the case that I was involved with Kenny and Alex and the boys, the Yellow Pearl band what was the name of Alex's band? Alex Chen, Margaret's brother. Dynasty. There were, and he performed at, the band performed at both of those fundraisers, and all the gangs, they wanted to come. So they had an unofficial truce. They didn't bring any firearms. They wanted to come and be part of it, and they wanted to show respect and Bayming for Alex and the boys. So nothing happened. There were 700 people at 199 Lafayette Street. And the guys were there. And nothing happened because they wanted to be part of what was going on in the community. So Project Reach was where, like Nina said, I come from after work. Yeah, it was a tough, there were a lot of deaths. And I remember, having to bury 3 of the guys in the program. So it was a tough year for me personally, because I realized then that even though I had a good heart and I wanted to make changes, I really was not equipped at that point to really work with the population that was involved in the gangs. And just being around everybody, then we started the Chinatown Health Fair, the very first one. Corky, Spencer, Marie Lamb, I think there was 4 of us. Thomas Tam. And we held that first street fair for 10 days. We just shut down Pell Street, Mott Street, built up all these booths. And it was an opportunity for college students and Asian Americans in the tri-state area, just word of mouth. You didn't need social media. It's just word of mouth. It got out. There were 100 volunteers, college students, volunteers that showed up to help build the booths and man the booths and do all that.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Is this the invitation for the dance? 199 Lafayette, a disco party? I have the original.
$3 in advance. We raised a lot of money too.
Yeah, totally. This is the original.
I wanted to give a shout out. I wanted to give a shout out to Fei Chang, because she was the visionary. She was the visionary of Basement, and it was in her. She wanted to give voice to the Asian American experience, especially from the working class perspective. And she was true to that her whole life. And I just wanted to, acknowledge that she was the driver. She's the one that wrote all those grants. She's the one that got people involved. I helped to build the 2 bathrooms at 199 Lafayette because I was a plumber. And I got 2 of the Chinese guys who were also in plumbing, and we came up and we built those 2 bathrooms. Luckily, they didn't leak at all. Okay. And then the final thing is because Tai Ma,
Yes.
okay, his latest movie is The Farewell.
Yeah.
Mako, the Japanese-American actor who was the lead in Pacific Overtures, on his night off, Monday, in the dark night on theater, he would come to Basement Workshop and he taught theater. And Ty and I and a bunch of others, Archie, Jeff, there was a whole group of us, and Mako gave us of his free time and his talent and his expertise. I mean, we didn't mention theater, and I just wanted to mention that so much was going on at Basement. Whatever you wanted to be involved with, there was something you could do because there was so much creativity and so much activity. And because people were, it wasn't just being creative, we were looking for ourselves. We were looking for our voice, we were looking for our identity, and Basement was the place we all went to search for it.
But the great thing was that after Basement, Teddy was saying, you know, everyone was in flux. There was everyone kind of saw different outlets, started their own groups, Bob Lee and Asian American Arts Center, and Chinatown History Friends. There was lots of little arteries that came out of it, and now we could start documenting that, and we get volunteers to help. I've got tons of photos and negatives, so if someone wants to help, I've got Charlie, Frank Chin was there, May, I've got, and they were never printed, so we need helpers.
I just want to say something.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll say it from here because I'm Ava Chin. I'm a writer. I know some of you, but not everybody. I'm a generation behind you. And I want to tell you that so many of the Asian American organizations that I've been a part of, Godzilla, the Asian American Writers Workshop, even Kondimon, right? We all owe a debt to what you all did at Basement Workshop. And if you don't know that, it is our fault for not having told you. So I want to represent and thank you for the work that you've done. That's number one. Can we have a big round of applause for them? Thank you. Two, I want to suggest that this is so lovely. I wonder, is it possible, do you have Basement Workshop reunions? Can this be something that happens?
There was a 40th.
And I know Faye's Memorial, right, was something that brought people together. But it's possible to do this, and I'm putting the bug in your ear, to do this because it's not just for you, but it's also for the generations after you. As we learn from you, and I want to thank you. But keep it in mind.
Offering to buy us dinner?
Funds could potentially be raised. It would be an honor.
Come on, Coffee. You were there. I remember you.
I really don't have a whole lot to say except that except that all you guys here have defined who I am. And I can't thank you enough. And I'll just continue. Okay, now that I've regained my composure. Okay. It was, I guess, I go back a long time ago. Somebody mentioned the Chinatown Pushcart Derby. That was the same. That was the same. I don't know if people were around here at that time. Anybody know what a pushcart derby is? No. Yeah. There's nationally, there's a national soapbox derby where fathers would work with basically suburban kids to build a little cart, and they still run it. I think it's in Akron, Ohio. So back then in the 60s, I knew that there were two types of Chinese male students. There were the jocks, okay, and then this is way before you had computer science. There were all these Chinese engineers, all right? So I had the Chinese students who were majoring in engineering, electrical, mechanical, and so forth, build the push cart. And then the jocks, I had them push it. So then we came into Chinatown, we actually recruited kids, and since we didn't have any protective gear, we got football helmets and the football pads. We did this twice, 1969 and again in 1970. And I got the 5th precinct to come up with money for trophies. And at every race car, there was always some sort of a queen, 500 Annapolis, stock cars and stuff like that. And I figured, just to sort of keep up, we needed some sort of a queen, for the push cart. And I remember there was a woman named Sandy Liang who lived in Chinatown, and she was the president of the Baruch College. So I asked her if she would be the queen to give the trophy to the winner. I remember the winner that first year wound up working in the World Trade Center, and he was one of the first people who perished in 9/11. Okay, so I can go back really very far, but 1969 is also the same time that Eleanor and Danny had the Chinatown Report, and most of those people who worked on that, I wound up recruiting, because at that time, during that time period, I was the president of the Chinese Student Club in Queens College. So I had access, I organized a lot of the dances, the social events, so I knew people who would be willing to come in. And some of those same people who came in, I'm thinking of Lois Chin Lee. She is still working as a social worker in an after-school program in CPC. The street fair that was mentioned was 1971. We had 14 different types of diagnostic testing. We had ear, nose, throat, pap smears, venereal disease, stuff like that. I was able to get Congresswoman Bella Abzug. You guys all remember Bella Abzug, right? Battling Bella, right? I got a representative from her office, in addition to Kazu Obayashi, who worked for the Health and Hospital Corporation, to call up the 5th precinct when we had the meeting. So the representative from Bella Abzug's office was there, and they told me that they had spoken to the merchants in Chinatown, and they were very much against closing up Mott Street. And I thank the captain of the 5th precinct for being so community conscious. However, the part of Mott Street that we wanted was not in front of CCBA, but it was below Baird Street, below Baird on Mott, and it took up Pell Street, because once we close these 2 streets, we have the street to ourselves. And a number of the merchants actually lent us their electricity. They would have a 50-foot cable to operate the centrifuges and stuff like that. And if we weren't near a business that would give us electricity, every telephone pole, I found out, if you open up the base of the telephone pole, there's electrical outlets. So, but that's what I learned when I worked for Two Bridges Neighborhood Council. I worked with basically squatters to open up housing for affordable people. So, and I have probably many more photographs that you can imagine. I don't have 1 million photographs. When I last counted, I think I have just shy of 800,000. So. Anyway, I want to thank you all for coming.